Hey, what's going on, guys? How is everybody doing? Now, Zhongli is causing a bit of an upset in the Genshin Impact community. For the longest time, he has been the most anticipated, maybe behind Zhao, hero in Genshin Impact. When it was revealed that Child Banner was going to be coming before Zhongli, there was a lot of people upset that they were going to have to wait an additional 3 weeks for their Genshin Geo Husbando god Zhongli himself. And now that he's out, people are finding that he's not that impressive, and honestly, a lot of people are really disappointed, especially in all the hype that was built around Zhongli. Maybe that was built up by MiHoYo, maybe it was built up by the players, but nonetheless, he has been found to be a little bit more underwhelming than initially thought. So we're going to be taking a look at exactly why that is the case, and why he may not actually be as good as initially thought. So let's hop right into it. So first off, we have to get a census of actual data of how many people actually think that Zhongli is disappointing. So here we have a poll that was sent out to Chinese players, Chinese server players. And this first category here, we're looking at the top 3 5-star players. Now, as you can see, the Chinese community clearly thinks that there are 3 heroes on top of the ladder. We have Venti coming in number 1. I don't think is any surprise. A lot of people claim that Venti's burst is broken, and it is quite busted. Next up, we have Diluc, who is one of the most popular carries in the game, one of the most popular main DPS units in the game. No shocker there. And finally, we have Klee at number 3, really fallen quite a bit behind Diluc, but quite a bit ahead of the 4th position character, who is Jean. Again, not surprising, Klee is a absolute DPS powerhouse. Moving down to our second pile here, these are our mid-tier 5-star characters, and we have Jean followed by Child and Mona. I was a little bit surprised to see Jean that high. I would have thought that maybe Keqing would have snuck in here, and you know, we can see that she is just below if we don't account for Klee. The reason I'm thinking that Jean is so high here is because she is one of the only characters, there's currently 3 characters total, that can cleanse. And cleanse is very important once you get to floor 12. In the Abyss, you can get rid of that condensed ice and free up your stamina. So that's why I think Jean is so high on this list. Next up, we have Child. Child is super popular, especially over in Chinese servers, and I think the reason that he's more popular over there as opposed to like over here in the US, because I expected Child to be a little bit lower too, is because Child teams tend to be pretty expensive in terms of who he needs on his team to make him more viable. And in terms of monetary value, I mean, like, he needs characters who all have really high tier artifacts, who need high tier weapons. And so because of that, he is more expensive. Now, Chinese players, from my experience, tend to be more on the dolphin to whale side. They tend to spend more money. So that's why I'm not surprised for these servers to see that Child is higher up. And then we have Mona. You know, Mona, I would expect to see in the middle of the pack. She's just a super solid burst support. But then we come down to the bottom and we have the lowest rated 5-star units. At 7th place, we have Keqing. Again, I could have seen her in the mid tier, but not surprised to see her at the height of the bottom tier. We have Chi-Chi. While it does surprise me to see her that low, I'm also at the same time not surprised. And the reason for that is because there really isn't a lot of content in this game that needs a top tier healer. You can get away with 2 sub tier healers, and so because of that, out of all these other 5-star units, not really surprised to see her that low. And then we see finally probably the biggest surprise of all, Zhongli at the absolute bottom of the ratings by almost 20%. The consensus that he is the worst 5-star. I mean, what happened? This was supposed to be like the god of Genshin Impact. Everyone was super hyped for him. So what exactly happened? Well, let's delve into that a little bit. So now, actually, before we get right into the numbers, let's talk about what people expected from Zhongli, because I think that is important to assess what people's expectations were. So the expectation was that he was going to be a really good burst support or a geo battery. Now, for those of you guys who aren't familiar with those terms, A burst support is a unit who, like Mona, comes in specifically for their burst or for their skills. So basically, you're going to be building up energy with them, and then you're be using them for their burst. So like Bennett is another good example. Their burst just like outscales everything else, and they're there to use the burst in order to support your main DPS. Now, a battery is more of a unit who's there to build up energy for your main DPS. Usually, or most often, that unit is going to be of the same element, because while your main DPS is off the field, they will generate more energy from elements of the same type. So if you had a Ningguang, for example, and you're trying to build up her burst as fast as possible, you send out Zhongling, you use a Z, you tap a Z, you get some resonances going, you get some geo elements, and you build up her burst much quicker. Now, in terms of the second option, him being a battery, he's not exactly the most consistent. The problem is that people haven't found it consistent, his E, when you tap it, how much energy it's actually going to give you. You know, sometimes each resonance will give you some energy. Sometimes it's not for 3 or 4 ticks that you get energy. So the fact that it's not consistent is really a problem, especially once you start getting into higher tier numbers, higher tier content. Consistency really starts to matter. So the fact that it's just he's not consistent, he's not very reliable in terms of a battery, it kind of knocks him off there. Now, in terms of a burst support, that's really where we need to start getting into the numbers specifically. And when it comes to him being a burst support, the numbers are really what matters, because the numbers are why you're going to have him there. For example, if you are using Mona, as we discussed before, the reason is because she will amplify the damage of your main damage dealer. Same thing with Bennett. Because you're giving that attack boost to your main DPS, you're giving them a benefit. Same thing with Jing Cho. So the damage is really what's important here. So if we take a look at these numbers, now all these numbers I'm going to get is from a channel called Jinx and Tuner. I'll of course be leaving their channels down, or their channel, it's one combined channel, down in the description below. I do highly recommend you check out their channel. Jinx gets super in-depth with numbers. Now, for most people, this is not going to matter, but if you're at all interested, I do highly recommend you check out their channel. So when he's looking at numbers, so on the right here, which you'll see highlighted, we're going to look at his geo damage. Now, the way he was calculating this is because the ult, Zhongli's ult, has a 12-second cooldown. He's calculating how much geo damage he can do from his skill and burst in that 12-second time frame. So now we have the actual damage he dealt from his ult. We have the tap damage, which is literally when the construct comes down, how much damage it does. Then you get the amount of damage from the resonance ticks off the skill, which finally you have your total of 976 damage. Now, what's important here is not necessarily the damage number itself, because this was a unbuilt Zhongli. He didn't have max artifacts, he didn't have max weapons. What is important is that we're comparing damage between his kit, not against other characters. But then when we take a look at his physical damage, which is just off his basic attack, per combo here, we have a kick cancel and a charge. Now, this is going to be like incredibly optimized for high level players. I don't expect most players to use this kind of combat technique, but when we are looking at optimal numbers, it is important to find the most optimal combo you can do, which he did find here was a kick cancel and a charge. If you don't know what that is, I recommend you go check out his video. But what he found is that he could perform this combo every 4 seconds. So you take that total damage, multiply it by 3, and we get 2,301 damage per ultimate cycle. Now, that's almost double what he was getting out of his geo damage in terms of the same 12 seconds. So for a burst support, he's not doing a lot of geo damage. Most of his damage is coming off of his base attack. So why would you build him as a burst support when you could build him as a DPS carry instead, as it looks like that's where most of his damage is supposed to be coming from. And even if you look below that, where, you know, you're working a little bit more for your geo damage with 3 different constructs, that's what the damage down there below is, you're still not even getting the same amount of damage from his basic attacks. Okay, so if we know that we're building him, or supposed to be building him as a DPS carry, then why is he still so disappointing? So now we do have one other pole arm user that we can compare him to. Now, on the left, I know there's a bunch of numbers here, try and keep up here, so it's a little confusing. So on the left here, we do have numbers for Xiangling. On the right, we have the scaling numbers for Zhongli. Now, if you look at just the raw numbers, Xiangling is doing more damage than Zhongli as a 4-star character and as a free character. That's what's huge, is that just on her raw numbers, she's doing more damage. Now, remember, when we're talking about optimal damage, like using cancels and, you know, dodging, stuff like that, Zhongli will still outperform Xiangling. That is important to know. Even though the numbers here look like Xiangling does more damage, if you're playing perfectly and optimally, Zhongli will still do more damage. But other things to note is that, like I said, Xiangling is free, and the difference here is not that much, but also you have to take into account their elements. Xiangling has a way better element. Pyro right now is like a top tier element. First of all, you have their resonance, which on paper, the 25% attack boost you get from Pyro is way better than the 15% buff you get from Geo. Also, the fact that Xiangling has access to 2 of the best reactions in the game in terms of damage, both Melt and Vaporize, and did I mention that she's free? But beyond just comparing him to Xiangling, we also have to compare him to some of the other top tier DPS carries in the game. So currently, the best ones we're looking at, as we did from the poll, we had Diluc and Klee. We also have, Keqing is up there. In terms of raw damage, she is up there, maybe not in terms of popularity. But then we also have, 4-star carries. We have Razor, and surprisingly, Bennett's up there. Bennett's been climbing in terms of my own opinion on him. But why are these characters all better than Zhongli? Well, the main reason is that they have a way of dealing a single kind of damage and not split damage. That's really the big thing. So with Diluc, if we take a look at his burst, you'll see that his burst actually allows him to start adding pyro damage on top of his basic attacks. Klee, the same thing. She automatically does elemental damage as part of her attacks. Keqing, the same way. Her burst makes it so that now her basic attacks are doing electro damage. Now, Razor and Bennett are a little bit different. Razor's burst just increases the speed of his attacks, and because his physical attacks are how he's doing the most of his damage, it's amplifying the way he's doing damage, right? Bennett's the same way. He's going to add a significant attack bonus. You can add like 300 to 700 attack to him as your main DPS, and that's not even, that's like, light investment. That's not even heavy investment. So really, the fact that they can, basically what this comes down to is because in your cup, you can choose whether you want a physical damage bonus or whatever kind of element you're doing. If you build, let's say, Diluc with a Pyro cup, he won't be doing split damage. So it's not like his basic attacks are going to be doing all physical, and then his skill and burst are going to be doing Pyro. His burst will allow your basic attack to do Pyro, so you'll always be getting that elemental benefit. The problem with Xiangling is he doesn't have access to that. So with his skill, you're looking at creating constructs, dealing, ticking damage over time. You're looking at creating a shield and protecting yourself more. And then with his burst, you're doing just a big old hit of geo damage. But the problem is there's no amplification to his basic attack, and that's really where his kit falls behind a little bit. The fact that he has no way of amplifying his basic attack is really the problem here. So your damage is very much split. You can build him to be a physical carry, but then you're losing damage out on your skill and burst. Or you can focus more on his skill and burst, focusing more on, geo damage, but then you're losing out the potential damage you could have from his basic attack. So that's really the problem with his kit right now, is it's very split. He's intended to be a very tanky basic attacker, a very tanky main DPS, a physical carry. The problem is, if we look back at these polls, remember, Chi-Chi is down at 8th. There is really not a need right now in terms of where the content is currently for top tier healing characters or tanky characters. Really what the focus on, if we look up here at the top, is raw damage. And unfortunately, Zhongli's kit just doesn't lend itself to that. And so that is the main reason why, if you're looking around the internet right now, looking at Genshin Impact content, you're going to be seeing a lot of complaining about Zhongli, that his kit just isn't what it was meant to be. So that is kind of the disappointing thing of it. Unfortunately, Zhongli's kit just didn't live up to the hype. Now, does that mean that MiHoYo can't go back in after the fact and change his kit? No. Does that mean that his kit won't eventually become good when new content comes out and we do need tankier heroes? No, that might happen in the future, but as of right now, unfortunately, his kit is just a little bit behind the 8 ball. But guys, that's all I got for today. Hopefully you did enjoy the video. Let me know down in the comments section below if you guys, if you agree with this assessment, or do you think that Zhongli did live up to the hype? Let me know down in the comment section below. But if you want to check out more content from me, you can head over to my Twitch page, twitch.tv/xjazze. You can subscribe right here on YouTube by clicking that red subscribe button. Like the video if you liked it, and click that notification bell. That way you never miss a video. And if you want to join our Discord community, you can head right down in the description. Link to join will be down there. But guys, that's all I got for today. Hopefully you did enjoy, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.